Hello, everybody. We're finally here after a loss. 6 games in, we've got our first loss in boxing terms. We'll be 5-1 now. Um, yeah, we lost to Manchester United. We gave our chest on the preview, and it didn't go through. It was a better performance than usual, but we lost in anyways 3-1. Um, I'm here with Karen and George. How you guys doing?
I'm good, bro. I'm not too
Oh,
bad. It's annoying to face a loss for sure, but it's weird. I come out of the game feeling better about our chances in the season, but annoyed that we basically saw the same story, and it was avoidable. Like I think there was a lot of mistakes, and I sent a tweet out talking about kind of where we went wrong, and it was basically a story that we've already seen before, and it was more frustrating. I don't think disappointed is the right word. I was just very frustrated about the match and how we approached the match because I feel as though that we could have done something special. But yeah, we move. And like you said, I think we played a lot better there than we have in many years. But it's still kind of a case of same story with Old Trafford in terms of our performances there. So frustrated for sure.
yeah, it's. I'm not like I'm kind of sleep deprived and tired. A lot of traveling, got some in real life stuff, but yeah, it's a frustrating day to have to talk about Arsenal today because I felt like we dominated that game without really getting to what we deserved. I think there was a couple of poor decisions, let's put it that way, and a couple of very interesting moments, but I think we didn't perform like we should have in the final third. A lack of movement at times, a lack of being able to put the final finish on things, and this is why I think in the transfer season we said, well, I said anyway, and I know George and you did as well, that a striker, just a presence in the box. I just feel like we need that man in the middle, just like a massive body, and I think that would have helped a lot. Just having a focal point, just to either relieve pressure or just to. Well, Jesus did it as well, as in terms of getting about it. He's so good at holding his man off and getting again turning and spinning people. I just feel like we just needed a bit more. And there's obviously issues with our midfield at the moment, and the issues we had. I think this was one of the biggest proponents and one of the biggest examples of why we have Kieran Tierney in this team. I think he offers you a more defensive stability in the game, and we just at times I feel like we were just so exposed in transition. I think we could have really used him at times. Uh, yeah, I'm disappointed about the result, but as George said, there's a lot of things to take away from that performance in terms of being able to dominate the ball. The Fabio Vieira debut, which was scintillating, I think you can say. I know there's a clip going around of that lovely ball he made from the right half space into the box. That is, very, very good. I think there's a lot of things we can take away in terms of how we need to improve. And I tweeted out saying that it's a humbling experience, but it's something that keeps you hungry. If we'd gone for 6, it would have been amazing. I think it's unprecedented. And that's something like 1948, 1947, something like this, since we did it last. So it would have been nice, but at some time the ride had to end and we had to take that L. But we took it. We have to absorb it and we have to move on to the next game. So let's have a discussion about it.
Well, yeah, we did lose. We did lose. I said we did lost. We did lose. What did you make of the? Well, first thing we're going to talk about, just get into it. What did you make of the lineups? The lineups came out. So our lineup was Zinchenko was back, which personally I didn't want to see, but we'll get into that. Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, White, Lokonga, Odegaard, Xhaka, Martinelli, Jesus, and Saka. And one change for each team, basically. Zinchenko and Anthony came in. What did you make of the lineup? And because for me, I was happy Anthony came in over Elanga because Elanga, when he plays against us, he stretches the pitch. And even in the 3-1, he was causing us some issues stretching the pitch, and he just does that generally. And Anthony, I would have preferred because his physicality wouldn't have hurt us as much in transition. Obviously, we know what happened. And then Zinchenko, I didn't want him to start because 1v1 and positioning, I couldn't trust him. And in big away games, when a team we know is going to hit us in transition, I couldn't. I didn't want to trust him, and he cost us. But what did you guys make of the lineups?
I was fine with it. I mean, I don't know if I 100% agree with in big games comment. I think Zinchenko can for a particular game state. I think the big thing that we basically gambled on is us doing the things that we've done all season well, but we didn't really do that. So I think for me, it became a game where you would like to see Kieran Tierney, but I don't think that was the intention from Mikel, from the boys, from anybody. I did talk about kind of at the beginning or right after the game, rather. I said, it's tough loss from a story that we've really come to know. And besides us lacking a lot of conviction in the final third after Martinelli's disallowed goal, I thought the midfield structure was just really porous. It was allowing far too much space on the counter. And if you're going to do that and you're going to find yourself defending a lot of transitions, then of course, Kieran Tierney is a fullback that you prefer in that state. But, we needed to get back to our better effective press because we didn't press well. We really didn't, do our diligent work in terms of covering who we needed to cover. Even when we talk about some of the tactics, our 4-4-2 press where we typically go man-to-man on the DM, we didn't do that on McTominay, who I thought had a good game in build-up for United. And, if we had done some of the things that I think we were doing before, I think we get a lot more success. And we have some stuff to show why that was the case. But there were certain players for me that had a tough time, particularly Sambi Lakanga. I think Martin Odegaard had a tough game. And we'll try to show you why, but I just don't think it was because of a lineup selection. I'll be honest with you. I think if we had dominated
I
possession,
didn't say it's because of a lineup selection. I just said I would have preferred Tierney over Zinchenko.
no, well, in big games, but I don't know if the game state would have changed. So if we were dominating possession, let's say, and we were camped out in their half and we were able to press effectively, I don't know if I'd be saying the same thing, particularly with who they had, at their right back, but our left hand side. And I don't know if Kieran was necessarily somebody for that. I think he was definitely somebody for the transitions that we faced, but not in that game state. I don't think that, if we ended up doing our press well and we ended up sustaining a lot more pressure, that we end up facing the type of game that we faced. I don't think we missed that, let's say, between Kieran and Zinchenko. For me, I was fine with the lineup. I was more annoyed that, I was happy with Anthony like you, Chris. Like I thought that was definitely something that we could exploit. And to be fair, I think beyond the goal, which he was clinical at for sure, like you got to give him props. He really didn't do anything in the game. So for me, it was fine to do that. I was worried about Elanga. I was worried about an Elanga-Rashford wing pairing because I feel as though Manchester United are best on the break and they're best in spaces. And if you give them space to run, you're going to get caught, whether that's just in general or just as a team with Rashford, with outlets that they play to. I thought Sancho had a poor game, so I was happy to see him. And I thought that wing pairing was really static. I was very excited to see that. I thought Rashford really hasn't impressed at center forward as well, but must be said, he had a really good game linking play as well. He was really, really good. Something that we haven't seen from him, often, I would say. But yeah, for me, lineup wise, I wasn't as annoyed with it. I think the idea was to sit there and dominate play and do what we've been doing all season. I don't think it quite worked out because we didn't do some things that we had been doing all game. But I was okay with the Zinchenko. How about you, Kern?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just think that with the midfield issues that we had in terms of the Congo lone six, the issues we had with just keeping centrally compact, we'll get into it, but there's a lot of times where our press was so easy, well, not easily, but it was too easy to cut through at times. And they did it in transition very well. I just felt with Kieran there, it gives you another man who I feel is a bit more defensively minded, a little more secure on the ball, not on the ball, defending 1v1, and it maybe in transition it has a bit more pace. I just feel like there's definitely an argument for the big game situation, but if I was to, it's not a massive issue. I just think in hindsight, I mean, when I first saw the lineup, I was happy because I thought we could dominate the ball, which we did. I thought we could create chances, which we did. But the issue I had looking back is there were times where, look, this United team are so good in transition and they had the space to do so because we were kind of overcommitting at times in the press. We'll get into it. But I just feel like looking back on it, there are times where you have to say, look, I need Kieran here just to be a bit more aggressive in his out of possession control of the game. So yeah, I'm not upset with it. I don't think Mikel made a mistake. I just think that looking back, you can see that that wasn't a decision which I personally would have agreed with.
I mean, I think this comment, it's funny because it's about the stream, but I will say it leads into like the tactical issues for me in terms of the press, because I felt that there were a lot of players late to their cover shadowing. That's going to be probably the big topic of discussion in this stream, because I felt like we didn't do a good job making sure that we were quick to our markers like we had in previous games. I'm excited to kind of get into it, because I do think that there was a couple people that were late to their markers, late to their assignments, and I think it had a knock-on effect where not only was the midfield porous and we saw all those counter-attacking situations, it was because we made the spaces big, and people being late basically increased the distances that we were meant to travel, and that really hurt us, especially against Old Trafford in an emotional situation. I think we did really well in the second half, especially to start, but things kind of derailed for me really, really quickly. And we'll talk about the subs and who was at fault for that. But I think a big part for me was throughout this game, there were people late to their markers. There were people that weren't pressing aggressively in the same manner. We normally go 1v1, especially on the DM. Like we saw it versus Aston Villa, where we had Martin Odegaard on Douglas Luiz. We've seen that in the past as well against Brighton. Like we've employed that tactic to really good effect, where we sit somebody on the opposition's lone DM, which I think really we should have done with McTominay. And we didn't really see that. And so I feel as though that everybody was a little bit late to their markers. It left a lot of big spaces in midfield. And I think Sambi Lokonga, look, we all know what we feel on this channel about his future as a 6 or as an 8. But, a big issue that he has is controlling spaces and defensive transition. And I think he makes couple wrong decisions in this match, especially on the second goal. I feel, he's a little bit risky where he doesn't need to be, but then giving up the ball in transition, he's jogging back, and it's not good enough if you're going to be losing the ball in that situation. So for me, I think although this comment is to, kind of make fun of our tardiness, I think it's kind of apt for how we played in the game. I don't think everybody was committed to their markers as such. And we'll talk about it a little bit soon.
Well,
Yeah, and just to answer the question in general, it's always George. It's always, don't worry about it. It's always George.
I was here. Relax. You were late today. Okay, don't even try that.
I came before 9. Don't give me that rubbish. I was here before 9. I'm always here before 9.
We started at 8, so everyone came before 9.
Well, I can't really change that.
But anyway, I was gonna ask. We might as well get into it. What did you think of our build up and press and how it affected the game?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with the build up, Chris, you've got the shot. You might as well put up the two. We built up in a 2-4-4, and we kind of reverted to our kind of winter build up from last season when we had Nuno. We were playing that 2-4-4 build up. We were trying to basically instead of trying to push up the field a bit more, we kind of had the fullback sit back and have the build up, basically trying to help Sambi and build up at times. I think that for me, I think having it is fine, but I just think we were trying to bait them in a bit too much. I don't know about you, George, but I feel like it was a bit too passive at times when it could have been a bit more aggressive, and we could have tried to push up the pitch a bit more. And what this did do, though, which is good, is it allowed Ramsdale to show off his best pass, the clip ball to the wings. That's his best ball. His distribution was excellent this game, and his ability to get the ball to Zinchenko or a Ben White or Tomiyasu in this game allowed us to have an outball at times, which did help. But for me personally, the word what I would use is conservative. I think it wasn't aggressive. I wanted more. I wanted basically 5 channels. I wanted to go up and go for it and have more men in areas where we could affect in the final third. And I think having that one man less meant that when we crashed the box, at times we were lacking at times. And I feel like we weren't creating enough. We were creating chances, but I feel like there was not enough movement in the final third at times. I mean, what do you think, George?
I mean, so here, I'll just walk everybody through. This is very clearly a 4-2-3-1 press by Manchester United. So everybody in the comments, just to orient yourself, you've got Bruno kind of in the middle there, who's that 10, very classical 10. And they're pressing very simply, Sancho and Antony out wide, and then you've got Rashford up top. And their pivot is good. And Curran, you mentioned a 2-4-4. That's what we did to kind of combat this press, because when you look at it here, so if you look in the first phase, they've got 4 players up top, and we use a 2-4-4 in order to get 6. So in this first kind of third of the pitch, we've got a numerical superiority. That's the idea for going with what we did in terms of a 2-4 buildup. We added somebody in the back there because we anticipated them having this type of pressing structure, and we basically wanted to have an extra man in midfield to get out of the press. Now, I think you're talking about showing off Ramsdale's clip passes. I don't think he did it quick enough or often enough for us to really exploit. When you play this type of build-up structure, you need quick switches as fast and as frequent as possible. And there were times that we did well, and I think in theory we did okay in terms of getting out. But this is something that we struggled with, because once we did end up getting wide, whether it was Ben White or Zinchenko, I felt that we kind of needed our wingers to kind of drop a little bit more, and we ended up not having enough bodies to really quickly get out. So a big thing here was, I don't think the battle was necessarily lost in this area of the pitch. I think we did quite well, and the theory to kind of go to this was really nice to see. But ultimately, what we did see in our press was we tried to do this with the ball in terms of going 4-4-2. The issue I have with this is a lot more zonal. So you can see here, Gabriel and Martin Odegaard really strong in terms of that front 2 pressing. But what we didn't see was Martin Odegaard stick to McTominay. And I think that there was the biggest mistake. And I think we really needed to be a lot more aggressive in terms of having Bukayo Saka step up and have Martin Odegaard sit on McTominay, because I feel they basically used him as a get out of jail free card, and he did play well. And without that, I feel that United would not have had an answer to that build-up issue. And so for me, this is the first mistake structurally. Whether that was instructed or not, I'm not too sure. I mean, every other game that we've played, Martin Odegaard has done this role. So if it was instruction, I'll hold my hands up. But I just don't think that he was diligent in terms of marking him, because we've always had Martin as kind of the 1v1 assignment in our press. And I just don't think we did it enough. We made it too easy. McTominay would receive in space here, like he did very often throughout the match. And so that was an issue. One thing to maybe highlight really well before I take it over to Chris is when we did press well, we cut them apart. So this is an instance where we basically used David De Gea as a pressing trigger. Shakur, anytime he tried to clip balls out wide himself when they were building up. And by the way, ironically, a very similar structure. You can actually kind of see this 2-4-4 build-up for themselves. We really played the same game, Manchester United and us. Sorry, I'll put that back up. But we used, every time that David De Gea tried to do a floated ball out wide, our fullbacks were super aggressive. And you can see here Ben White is immediately onto Malaysia. And it's amazing to see. Like, I thought this press was excellent. Sambi Lokanga, the one of the few times here where he did really well, cut passes off into midfield. But the one thing I do want to highlight is I think Martin Odegaard is a little bit slow here trying to get the cover shadow. Now, in this instance, it worked. But we're going to see this is almost like a foreshadowing event of the goal, because this happened. We equalized, and Martin Odegaard, again, is a little bit slow to Eriksen when we talk about that second goal. And I just think that if we had tightened up how aggressive we were in our cover shadowing all game, and we didn't make this a one-time instance, then we would have had a lot more joy here. But that was the biggest issue that I saw when we faced kind of a United team that really to break out this press. And I just felt that we weren't aggressive enough. We weren't diligent in terms of making sure that we met our markers in the same way that we did against Aston Villa. Right, I both as a group, but also individually in terms of some players. So that was the biggest thing for me. How about you, Chris? How did you feel that our build up and our press was throughout the game?
I think our press was awful, honestly.
Yeah.
There was moments in the game where it was okay, but I think giving someone like McTominay, who we've seen struggle under pressure a lot, that much space and time, and then they use that to give Eriksen space and time, and you don't want Eriksen picking passes. And that's how they scored obviously it was a bad press, as well as a very good pass from Eriksen in the 34th minute. But us allowing them that much time, when a player is that good, because even though people don't like McTominay, but when a player is good enough to have that much time, they're going to take advantage of it, and he did. And our build-up, I think Ramsdale's passing was consistent, but his decision-making at times he took too long on the ball, and I think that was just everyone. Gabriel, Lokonga, Erdegaard. I think our spine took too long on the ball, and when they do that, progression is slow. And then certain players, like I think from the first like 5 minutes, anytime the ball came to Lokonga, he just booed it long. He didn't want the ball. So from then I thought he was scared, and then that hurt our team. And then Gabriel wasn't sure on the ball either. So I just think it was a poor game in certain aspects, like the build up. It was our worst build up of the season, our worst press of the season, and it came in our
Most
probably
important game of the season.
most important game of the season, which is annoying, but it's a learning curve because we still dominated despite those things. But I think now we can get into the highlights.
Actually, sorry, Chris, one really quick thing, and we'll get into the highlights. A little bit about arriving slow. I think for me, we saw this way too often. So I'll quickly describe this as, Martin peeled wide, and I don't think he was very good in the game in terms of demanding the ball like he did at Aston Villa. This is a very different Martin Odegaard performance, and it's frustrating to see because I think we see a lot of the concerns that we've highlighted before. But what you're seeing here is essentially Saka has won the ball after really good play by us to break out. I felt that our pivot was really static in the game, but this is one time when Saka makes a really smart move to go off Rashford, who's ball watching. He's not doing well. Saka passes it out to Odegaard. But look here, he's standing kind of on Bukayo Saka's toes here. Bukayo Saka is the one that's a touchline option. And what we need Martin in that box that we're highlighting here. Like this is the aggressive half space presence that we saw versus Villa, but we didn't see versus United. So I think when people kind of in the comments, I think they made note of it in terms of they hadn't seen the game, but we did some stuff well. But other things in terms of our small details, we just didn't. And I really agree with that because I feel as though these small mistakes are really the difference here. Like Martin Odegaard needs to be in the box there. And where granted is passing, he can pass it out to Bukayo, but we need somebody there. We don't have anybody. It's isolated. And this attack, after a really promising situation, goes to nothing. And this is what we saw pretty much all game. And I think that with just a little bit more tweaks in terms of where we're moving, both on and off the ball, I think that you see us click a lot more. And you see the same ruthless edge that we've had basically all season.
Yeah, I agree because I think, well, before you go, Karen, I think certain players just were hiding and were scared of the occasion, which is annoying because despite that, we still played to a certain level and dominated. Like there was up until the 70th minute in the second half, we had like 70% possession. So I think we dominated the ball well at times, but certain players just, and when I say certain players, I don't just mean Odegaard. I mean Lokonga, Gabriel, even Ramsdale at times. The presence wasn't there. The presence between the lines wasn't there. That is usually there. That has been there the first 5 games. Wasn't there versus United, and there's a reason for that. And we'll get into the reasons why we think it happened. But yeah, I just think certain players just had it, and it's not off game because it happens before. So it's not off. It's regular. Odegaard has done this before. Lokonga has done this before. It's something they've done before, and it just at this point it is what it is. But whilst I was watching, I was angry.
Yeah, I mean the main thing for me with this, because the thing is, I think people often associate with us with this agenda. I think we're very fair with him. When he has good games, we say we've made titles saying Odegaard has had a good game. Okay, when he's done well, we give him his flowers. When he doesn't do well, we're not gonna sit here and be like, okay, it's an off game. No, he had a bad game this game. I think if you put that picture back up, Chris. But the numerical overload in this, yeah, there we go. So if you look at this, if you split the pitch in half if you go halfway up the D, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players, and they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players, and you can see there's still space. There's still space to attack, and I feel like you've got to look at where the space is, because football at the end of the day is a game of space. You need to go where the space is. That's how you attract attention. How you get space open for your teammates. And the way to find, if you can't find the space, or if you're not willing to make that run, you're not going to have a good game. It's that simple. So this whole procedure here, this whole This screenshot here shows that you need to have more movement in the final third. That's a massive theme of this game. I feel like we were very passive when it got to the final third. We got it to the final third. I mean, everyone's seen that Sky Sports video of Thierry Henry breaking down Pep's tactics. And Thierry said Pep used to go, my job is to get you into the final third. Your job is to finish it. And we did well getting to the final third a lot. But there was so many times where I felt like we were just kind of flaccid in the final third with our movement, not being aggressive enough, not making enough movement off the ball at times. And I just think that this was kind of endemic for what this game was. And even with the press, like we showed before, like I feel like there was because usually what happens is either winger switches to whatever side the ball goes to. So if it goes to the left, Jesus and Marcelli will press. If it goes right, Saka and Jesus will press, and Odegaard will sit on the DM. But neither winger came to feet a lot of the time, and Odegaard didn't drop. Odegaard went to the man, and they were able to bypass us. So I just think that there's a lot of just sort of lax movement in the final third in terms of not just the on the ball stuff, but the off the ball stuff. This is a major theme of this game.
I think just generally when you look at space, just to tie it off, really what you should be seeing here is Ben White receiving in that space and Martin in that box. It's as simple as that. That's really what you should be seeing here. And I think part of the frustration is I think that 5 to 10 yards of difference here and there, but whether that's Sambi, whether it's Gabriel, by the way, whether it's Odegaard, these are players that I think we've seen the issues with, and we just need to see tweaks in terms of how we're going to adjust for that in the future. Especially if we don't have, our ideal performers here. Because, again, I think when people ask, can Sambi do the role? He can do it. But this is the difference that Partey gives you, by the way. Partey gives you that security where Martin feels comfortable enough to go inside. And I still think, even with Partey, we can look to see a little bit more dynamic movement from him in general between the lines. But we've seen from Villa to this, it's such a dichotomy of performances here that it's frustrating because it's not a fact that he can't do it. He can do it. It's the fact that he doesn't do it often enough in a consistent way between home and away matches. And I'm not too sure because I think, Chris, I think you even tweeted it on the timeline, but, I would love to play this game with Partey instead of Sambi Lacan.
Yeah.
And the reason it's that simple is because he tightens these distances more than people understand. And it is a game of space. And when you do end up increasing that margin for 5 or 10 yards, you basically get this type of performance. Now, I think that there's a lot of positives in terms of, for example, Saka here at the beginning of this move. He does really well to go off the back of Rashford and open up. That's great, but we need more people willing to take charge. Once you do take that action, especially away, you need to make sure that we commit bodies in the right manner. And so I think that drop off, it's people debate between Sambi and El Neni. None of this changes the fact that Martin should be in the middle of the half space. Right? Like none of that changes the fact that, I think Ben White could be a little bit more aggressive in possession here. I think here he was a little bit worried. I think Rashford kind of peeled left a little bit and tried to combine with Sancho quite a bit in the first half. And I think that impacted him going forward. I think he needs to be brave enough. Something, by the way, he's been doing all season. If you look at Arsenal's most progressive passing person, it's Ben White. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but, it's I found it really interesting to see, to be honest with you. And I just felt that, he himself wasn't as authoritative in his positioning. So I think if you basically move people up, like I said, you replace Ben White where Martin Odegaard is right now, put Martin in that box, and we attack this way, I think you see a very, very different potential. And we did this far too often, in my opinion. But yeah, we should probably get into the highlights because it's almost half an hour in and we do this quite a lot. So go ahead, Chris.
Well, yeah, I'll get into the first highlight. 7 minutes in, it was the Eriksen volley. So this starts with Anthony 1v1. Anthony was 1v1 with Jesus, and he was in this position a lot, really, throughout the game. As the game went on, they realised that there was no threat, so they just stood up tall instead of standing with knees bent, anticipating movement. We saw a clip of Zinchenko just like, oh, this guy's not going to do anything. But Anthony 1v1, Jesus does well to usher him to the byline. He flicks the ball to Dallo, who plays a cross into Eriksen. Ericsson does a volley with his left foot. It was his only shot of the game, and then the shot went wide. What did you make of this chance? Because for me, early, this was like their 10-minute period of dominance. They had 85% possession in the first 10 minutes. After that, obviously, it went down, but this was one of their two big chances in this 10-minute period. What did you make of this chance?
I was okay with the chance just in general. I think I was more annoyed with the 10-minute spell because in terms of what it voted. I wasn't a fan of the blindside run, and that's not tracking. That's the one thing I will say. I think we got bodies in the box. I think in general, this is a hopeful cross, by the way, by United. But the more troubling thing is that blindside run, which we've said. I don't know how many times I've got to keep commenting on, Sambi's ability to track runners blindside, but he's got to address this. And I think more than that, somebody behind him as well needs to be instructing him to watch the blindside run. Because again, if you look at this, Chris, we have men in the box here. There's no way, in theory, that Ericsson should be getting a shot on target. I know it goes off target. I understand that, but in theory, there's no reason that he should be getting here. We have bodies in the box. We have men there, and we're compact. Like, it's not as though that I see a break in any defensive structure here. It's actually quite good defending right now. But then obviously Sambi doesn't do his job, and I think we get a lucky shot off target. But less about the chance, but more annoyed about the 10-minute spell. That was kind of the theme of this chance.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned it's the blindside run. I don't think anything more needs to be said about that. We defended our 6-yard box quite well. It's just that there needs to be someone, just looking behind their shoulder. In this case, it's Sambi running with his man and just heading it away. It shouldn't really end up in a shot.
Well, yeah, that was the first real chance of the game. Ended with the Ericsson volley wide. Highlight the ball because I thought it was unclear. And then we had this. I just wanted to show Saliba had a shot in the box wide. They didn't really. It was just that was from a Xhaka just hitting hope really. But then the second big chance of the first early period starts from Martinez. Here you can see their build up. They've got two men between us. It is both their fullbacks were very willing to drop and make a back free throughout the game. It kind of helped them in build up. But yeah, Martinez passed between the lines. Easy straight pass to Bruno. There you can see the possession in the first 10 minutes. 85% to 15. Bruno passes to Sancho, who receives on the edge of the box. He does well 1v1 versus White. This was really his highlight of the game. Sancho takes the shot and Ramsey makes the save. This was their one of two shots in the first half. What did you make of this chance? Because it was a bit more potent than the other one.
I think this one is a lot better in terms of basically looking at what this is a lot better in terms of basically looking at between the line play from Manchester United's aspect. I think it was just really good play, Chris. I'm not going to lie. Like, if you go back in terms of numbers and if you go back in terms of looking at the initial pass, we have quite a bit of people in the right places, especially Sambi and Saka, I think, are doing well to stop their pivot in the entry pass. This is fine from me from a structure perspective. I think the one thing is I probably want Saliba a little bit more central here. I think he's worried about Rashford too much. If anything, I think that speaks a little bit more towards him maybe not trusting Gabriel in the early exchanges with Rashford, because Rashford was focusing on Gabriel here. And I feel as though he felt he needed double team a little bit too much. And I think for me, if we just shift out kind of Saliba 5 to 10 yards to the right there, I don't know if, Bruno has the time and space to turn like he does. Like that for me is the simple spacing thing that I probably want to see a little bit different. But other than that, I think it's just good play by United, especially Martinez between the lines. You can see why he's somebody that we targeted ourselves. He's somebody that does this quite often. He does it well, by the way. He's one of the best in Europe at it. So I think this is really good play by them. But I'm just a little bit more annoyed with maybe us being, again, 5 yards or so late to our position, right? Liba should be a little bit closer to Bruno for me. But how about you, mate? Like, do you see this as a poor structure issue or more so good play and response?
I think for a pass to bypass two phases, like that pass went past the front two and the four straight away. I think that's poor, but not necessarily from the structure, because Bruno himself shouldn't have that much space. between the lines anyways without getting in pressure for like 5 to 10 yards,
Mhm.
which forced him to pass to Sancho, who was then 1v1. But I think we had those little moments throughout the game, just letting players drift off. And usually you'd see Saliba hit the player hard, like he'd be so
Yeah.
close where he'd hit him hard. And White obviously couldn't do it because Sancho was there, so it was on Saliba to hit him hard, and he wasn't there, which was again a little fear, which I thought, yeah, the bravery, we lacked it a bit in certain moments, and it cost us. There it didn't cost us because Ramsdale made a good save, but
I
throughout
think
the game there were little moments where we were scared.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and this is what I was talking about earlier in the stream in terms of kind of the fought being late. I think just in general, like whether it's Saliba here a little bit 5 to 10 yards, whether it's Martin Odegaard 5 yards late, whether it's Sambi Lakanga being 5 yards late in terms of defending his blind side. Like I think these little spacing tweaks are related to a little bit of bravery. I think Ben White was a lot more reserved in general in this game. He wasn't as adventurous. And I think when you talk about bravery, like I saw that during after the game, and it's exactly what came to mind for me in terms of our spacing issues, right? Because there definitely were there, but they weren't like they weren't too bad where you would say, okay, this is a problem for the future. I could see that players understood where to be, but they were just kind of off it. That little extra edge. And I think the only person I must say that wasn't like that was Gabriel Jesus, who I thought was our personal man of the match. Like he was everywhere and he was doing a really good job kind of trying to combat that a little bit. I think he did a little bit too much at times. I think he overcomplicated things, but he was somebody that I don't think hid in the same way that others did. So yeah, I think the bravery was a big issue with this game too.
Well, yeah. Moving on swiftly. Uh, I agree with that, by the way. Yeah. Moving on swiftly, I'll go into the big debate, the Martinelli goal, which was after that shot, the ball goes back to United. They try build up, and we get up very quickly. Actually, one of the few times we get up the pitch very quickly, because as you can see, the Ramsdale shot was in a 10:38, and Ericsson gets tackled literally 50 seconds later. So Ericsson receives the ball, Erdegaard makes the tackle. We'll get back onto this after. I just want to walk you through the goal. Erdegaard makes the tackle. Saka receives. Saka plays a nice pass, quick pass through to Martinelli, who receives, and then great finish, one touch finish, back of the net, 1-0. Everyone celebrating. Pulled back. VAR took hours to decide whether this was a foul or not, and they said before the season they were going to give more leniency or lower the threshold for no higher the threshold, sorry, for a foul. So it has to be really convincing to be a foul. Did you think it was convincing? Because I think when there's that much debate, it clearly isn't convincing. When it took that much time, it clearly isn't convincing. So what did you make of the first of all the goal and how it came about, then the decision?
I must say, like it was against the run of play.
It was,
And like you said, the first 10 minutes, we conceded 85% possession, in general. So it was absolutely, against the run of play. But for me, it's ridiculous. Like let's call a spade a spade. Like, I think even in the middle of the match, there was other debates in terms of them being granted fouls in general. That we weren't, but I come to accept this. I think the issue is, consistency. Apparently, in the last game, the holding by Tyrone Ming, or sorry, not Tyrone, but I think it was Boubacar Kamara on Ramsdale, wasn't enough to overturn the goal. But here the foul was enough to overturn it. So there's just consistency in terms of how you're applying the letter of the law. Like that's what it comes down to for me, because it's not a foul. The one thing that I'd rather focus on instead of these refereeing errors, because I think it's really clear. I really don't see how somebody can think that that foul was enough to pull back the goal. Especially when you kind of look at here, Ericsson's just dilly dallying on the ball and ultimately gets caught and he's playing for it. But I'd much rather have a look at the Saka portion and that Saka pass, because from this position, by the way, this is something that I don't think we do enough of with Martinelli in terms of his ability to really attack space and play him 1v1, because he can do it and we do it often. It really reminded me of the Leeds Xhaka assist, by the way. Kind of carbon copy in a sense, but Bukayo can do this when he receives, and I just I feel that it was beautiful play, maybe undeserved in terms of the balance
Maybe
of play.
it was.
Just maybe a little bit undeserved, but ultimately this was really clinical. And the irony of this, Chris, this is the one time that we were super clinical in the final third, the entire match. And I do think I mentioned it earlier on stream, but I feel ever since that disallowed goal, the entire team wasn't clinical, and I think that's where that lack of bravery stemmed from. When you're looking at it, you can soak up pressure, but you need these things to go your way if you need to change a story, right? Like I have no doubt that with this goal, I think the boys get the confidence to kind of play. But as soon as this gets disallowed, because I just think that Ericsson is fortunate, absolutely, and on another day, that doesn't get called. But look, it's Arsenal at Old Trafford. We know the script, right? So of course, once the VAR went to go, I knew that it was going to be overturned. But it is ridiculous. Like, let's call a spade a spade. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real here. Let's be completely honest. This is stupid. This is dumb, and this is ruining the game. This changes the game state. This ruins the game. And I'm hearing Roy Keane. I'm gonna get. Who gives a shit? I'm hearing all these guys saying, "Oh, we're deflecting blame." I want to hear one of your managers go on a press conference and say, "Hit me in the chest." I want to see any of your managers see that. So don't give me that bullshit that it's somehow we're deflecting blame. This is bullshit. Yeah, this is absolute bullshit on this foul. Foul. I mean, what the hell is it? It's a challenge. It's a challenge, and they're side by side. He's not tripping him up. They're side by side, and he falls. It's not enough to say that there's some sort of something massive that you can overturn. That's it. End of story. There's nothing there. It's bullshit. I'm fed up. I'm fed up of it. I'm fed up. I've seen it too many times. I've seen it so many times that it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, I've seen David Luiz get sent off for being kicked in the knee. I've seen this. I've seen Bukayo Saka being body slammed like it's WWE. Like, I've seen too many of these bloody decisions. I almost gone a bit too far there, but it's ridiculous. I can't do it anymore. I can't. It's just ridiculous, and I need to stop. We need to stop with this, because you can see that there's a difference between Granit Xhaka barely touching Bernardo Silva in the box against Man City and getting caught a penalty, and these kind of decisions where there's barely any contact. It's a man-on-man duel, and one man goes down. There's no foul play there. It's not like he was tugging him. He didn't even pull his shirt. They were side by side. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And you get on Sky, and this is a great point. All these Sky Sports dickheads. And what? You want to go on Sky Sports? You want to go back? It's not your time anymore. Go and retire. Piss off. It's not your time anymore. Get in the bin.
Well, I
don't want to hear your passion merchant bullshit from Fergie. It's enough.
I think
passion in the bin. Piss off, man.
I think like clearly Curran's still upset, but look, the biggest thing
that's bullshit, man. Fuck this shit.
No. The biggest thing that I'm upset with ultimately is that this situation didn't happen enough. So just to get kind of back to the original point here, I think refs are gonna ref, and it's poor, it's bad, it's inconsistent. But we've been saying the same thing for years. It's not even just now. I
don't even think it's just an anti-Arsenal thing. I just think it's an anti-competency thing.
No,
they're just not competent.
No, 100%.
Like, I'm not here for some sort of conspiracy theory that everyone's against Arsenal. I'm not about that. All I'm saying is that there are situations where human error has come into play, and when you're at Old Trafford at home, there's an atmosphere there, and these refs get pulled into it. You can see that Saliba going first challenge. Saliba gets a yellow, barely touches the man.
That's what I was going to bring up. I think the frustration for fans is the consistency in terms of reffing calling the way it happens in the game. So you look at the McTominay foul in terms of him basically manhandling Martinelli, the Saliba foul, him getting a yellow card off the first one. For example, if that's a yellow card, then what many people have done in terms of McTominay, in terms of Ericsson, in terms of Bruno,
right.
match. Yeah, like everybody else should have got a yellow. So the standard isn't the same. And so when you deem something to be a foul, the threshold for a foul, you need to be consistent throughout the game. I think most fans can appreciate that some view it as a foul and some don't, right? But if you're going to view it as not a foul, then do that the entire game. Don't go back and change. If you're going to view it as a foul, then be just as harsh throughout the entirety of the game. And I think that's the trouble that I think a lot of fans happen. But again, I want to get back to the original point because we didn't do this enough. And this was the last time that we saw this in the final third, that same conviction, the entirety of the game. And that to me is what isn't good enough. I think I expect ref inconsistencies. We can talk about them. It frustrates me, but it's kind of something I can't control at the end of the day. Something that I can control as a coach is us seeing this a little bit more often. And we didn't here. And so for me, great chance. I want to get back to it and kind of go off to Chris, in terms of what he thinks. But for me, excellent finish. Martinelli, by the way, has been accused this season, rightly so, by the way, of making the wrong decision sometimes. And I think this was back to his roots of a first-time finish that was excellent. So I was a really big fan in terms of the finish.
Can I just comment on the goal, though? Because I've had a bit of a rant. Can I comment on the goal before Chris goes? The actual goal itself, look, Odegaard wins his duel. The amount of times people said it was Sambi, it was Saka pushing the ball into Marcelli's path, and Marcelli has one of his superpowers is his body positioning before setting up a goal. He's so good at opening his body up and side footing into the back of the net. So against West Ham last season, you mentioned the Leeds goal. It's one of his great attributes. He's so good at it, and to see him on the biggest stage, calm, cool, collected. This boy is ready. He's going to explode this year. And hold on to your hats, people, because he is coming this year. He's coming for blood, and he's going to be so good this year. I can't wait to see what he has in store for the rest of the season because I'm going to love it. I know I will.
Well, yeah, on the goal, I think it was a great pass and a great finish. Like both were one-touch pass, like one-touch pass and then one-touch finish. Very composed. I think in the moment I was gassed, saw the foul, then I knew it was over. Then I was thinking, how are we going to bounce back from this? Because I think we bounced back in terms of territory. Like, they didn't dominate possession at all. We ended up dominating possession for the rest of the half. But in terms of potency, we weren't potent at all. The decision making was poor after that. I think a lot of people were second guessing themselves, and I just think that obviously they scored in the first half and we didn't, so they definitely took their chance better than us. But I think we wasted after that because we should have got onto their backs because they seemed a bit flustered 5 minutes after that as well because they were like, "Oh, we just lost the ball easily here." So.
But I think, Chris, like when you're looking at why maybe we acted the way that we did in terms of a bravery aspect, it's not right, but I think this is the poison that did it. Like I remember watching the game and I go, we're going to go back into our shells. And I felt as though that it was not a case of us conceding. Ironically, I feel once we conceded, we actually had a very good response in the second half. And we'll get there and we'll talk about it. The second half starting was excellent by us. Our best part of the game, by the way. But I just feel as though losing this so early in the game after a poor spell, sitting in pressure, this is the kind of thing that you need in these big games to go your way in order to really assert your dominance. Like it can happen. Things don't go to game. But when you basically get a chance to finish, which we did, and it gets pulled back, probably unjustly, not even just probably, but definitely unjustly. A lot of
I was going to say probably you're just checking. Definitely.
I think a lot of players kind of view that the wrong way, and they're not going to be willing to be as brave, especially when they can see that.
Yeah, it makes you reluctant it makes Odegaard and other players reluctant to hit their man the way they do every single game because you see how lightly he touched him. And it is not the greatest tackle from Odegaard. Like, he could have positioned his body a lot better so he could at least touch the ball. Because if he touches the ball, they don't overturn it. But he didn't touch the ball and then it got overturned. I do think it wasn't a foul. I was angry that it was overturned, but I expected it. And I think we should move on from this because
why was it called back in the first place? That's my issue.
Because the player fell over and the United players complained.
man.
We check every
I don't know.
single
Let's
box.
move. Let's move on because it's always just it's burning my head. It's burning my head. I can't think about this anymore. It's still burning.
To be honest, I'm at the point where I don't care, but I get to there very quickly. So 31st minute, Saka passes here to Odegaard, and here he's in the position where George actually wanted him earlier. He plays a great cross back post. Martinelli makes a header, and David De Gea pulls out a great save. This was one of the only times where we put a ball into the box in that first half, and we saw the danger it caused, especially back post. What did you guys make of this chance and the great save? I think great save from De Gea.
Look, it's a good save from De Gea, and Martinelli was making these runs all game. By the way, Fabio Vieira, this one, the goal, Martinelli was making off the ball runs for fun. I just look, Chris, you mentioned it. It's frustrating for me because again, when Martin's in this space, he hurts people, and this is a great chance, and I just feel as though that we needed to capitalize on this to kind of go into the half, not feeling the effects from that pullback goal, and we kind of. It took us a while to recover. Ironically, even after the goal, I agree, Chris, we didn't step on their throats. But here, we regained territory. And from that territory, we needed to make the most out of our chances. And this is one of them where I feel that it's a great save. But I don't know if I would have put it across the face of goal personally. I think Martinelli's always going to make a decision to go for goal here. But I just don't know if the angle benefits him, especially with the pace on the ball. I don't think there was enough that he could have, just glanced it. Either side. He had to generate his own power. Very difficult. But I don't think that the pace on the cross was enough for him to really have a chance at goal here. But it's excellent play. And this is what I wanted to see more of. I think if Martin does this maybe 10% more, I think we get a little bit more from this game.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing about this is it's one of these things I constantly mention. Being able to create things, high XG chances that can be replicated again and again. And this is one of them. Martin Odegaard, half space to back post, Real Sociedad Odegaard, his ability to find Isak and for him to create chances for him. This is another great way we can create high XG chances, which can be replicated. So getting Odegaard in this area is what we need to be doing. And I think he pulls out a good cross here, and unfortunately, David De Gea, we can say what you want about him, but he is a great shot stopper. He goes with his top hand. If you read John Harrison, top hand saves are much more statistically likely to come off. You're able to use the momentum from the motion as well as pushing the ball away from the goal with more conviction. So this is a good save from him, and we go into the. We go into the next thing. The one thing I will mention is a lot of corners. There were a lot of corners in this first half, if you remember, guys. I found that interesting. I found that we were really trying to push the tempo, force the issues. But I just think that we, at some points, if you look at this, if you compare this screenshot to preseason, I felt like there were more men in the box than we had. When we had preseason and here, we usually have 3 men centrally, 1 man at the back post. I just feel like people were a bit too reluctant to hit the box and make those runs in, and which could have. Obviously it's a great save, but you have to be available for that rebound in case it does happen. So, more aggression in the final third, but a good chance from Martin.
Well, I think we should just move on from this and get into their goal and how it happened, because there was a lot to
unpack.
So this starts on the wing with Malacia. He plays a pass to Eriksson, and from here to here, there's a big difference in where Sambi is. So I think the pressure was okay. I think he was too aggressive anyways, but the pressure was okay. And then here you can see there's no one on Bruno, and he just makes an easy pass between the lines. Bruno on the half turn, Gabriel foul, and here Gabriel takes his man out and essentially leaves it 3v3 in the back line with Xhaka tracking back. Sancho receives, and when he receives, he passes to Rashford. Rashford assist, and Anthony goal. But I wanted to show you different angles of when Sancho receives, because here you can quite clearly see that Rashford's on side, and eventually he comes back on side because Saliba drops too far deep, in my opinion. But from the start, before we unpack everything, from the start, from here, where do you think our issues were from here?
Well, Sambi should be where Bruno is, firstly. And then, I think we've just basically got somebody that's vacated his spot. And this is what we get. So I think for me, this is on Sambi, a lot of it. And I think, a lot of people were asking in terms of his defensive side, can we improve this? I think, look, ultimately what I've seen from Sambi, and I've repeated myself ever since the first video that came out, I think he's somebody that gets sucked into situations, which is fine if you're an 8. If you're an 8 in this position, this isn't a big deal. If you've got a Partey down there, that's not a big deal. One thing I must say is I would have liked Martinelli to have a little bit of presence of mind to recognize that no one's back there and to just go a little bit central. Crash a little bit 5 to 10 yards in, because even that will deter it. And I think that they go back and United would recycle possession. But again, this for me is a little bit more on Sambi, that he's in no man's land a little bit. He shouldn't be that far out wide, by the way, to begin with. Chris, you're mentioning how there's a big difference between before and after. This picture is taken, but in the before sense, he shouldn't be out wide as a anchor. That's not where he should be. And Xhaka's filling in terms of his positional sense where he should be, and that's fine. We can get instances where that's the case, but then Martinelli has to crash, right? Or Zinchenko. One of them has to step up and go and mark Bruno in that instance, because then you've basically got us outnumbered there. So for me, it's frustrating. I think it's on Sambi. Ultimately, I think if he's in better position and we reorient ourselves here, I don't think that this happens. But it's unacceptable that nobody is following Bruno, right? Xhaka does his job, making sure to mark McTominay out of it, and we basically block the blindside run on the far side. Very frustrating. Again, I think Zinchenko or Martinelli has to have better communication there, understanding that Sambi and Xhaka have left their post. And I do look a little bit more at Zinchenko here. He has to step up in this instance. There's how many times have we seen him in that lone anchor position? He's got to recognize that and block that in ball. And unfortunately, he just doesn't do it.
For me, and I know these two disagree with me, I don't think it's Martinelli's fault. But when you see there's no one available and you're the closest man to the free man, you've got to run. You've got to try and make that you've got to block that passing lane. And I agree it should be Zinchenko stepping up. But I just feel like if you see there's no one there, you have to be proactive in that situation. And for me, one of them, I don't really mind who it is. I don't know if it's Martinelli. You can see Martinelli sees the pitch from this view that he has, this screenshot. He can see the entire pitch. And when you see Bruno like that, maybe cut the lane out, or a call to Zinchenko, tell him to push. I just feel like there's a lack of communication, and that leaves a free man open. I'm not putting this all on Martinelli, but there has to be some leadership from somewhere in this line, whether it be Xhaka, whether it be Saliba or Gabriel, or or even Sambi. I mean, Sambi is ball side, and maybe he needs to go to be a bit more touch tight to Eriksen, so he doesn't have the time to push up.
I think Sambi is just way too eager. Like, in the moment, I was thinking, why, out of all players, is he there? Like, he's the highest midfielder above Odegaard, but he shouldn't be that high. And Xhaka's doing what Sambi should do. He moved over because Sambi moved over. And I agree, Martinelli should have moved over as well. But I do think there's a big mistake later on, which obviously has an impact on the goal. But after this, Eriksen obviously plays the pass. After the pass, I think Gabriel does as much as he could and takes the man out, because he notices it's 4v4, Bruno, Gabriel, Rashford, Saliba, Sancho, White, and you can't see them, but Anthony and Zinchenko. So it's a 4v4 and they're running back to goal. And Gabriel takes his man out, which I think is not the best decision, but it's fine because he took his man out of play. But after this, what do you think the biggest issue is? Because personally, I think Saliba dropping off too deep just plays Rashford onside and allows it to happen. But Zinchenko is too attracted to the ball. Like, as the left back, he should not allow the right winger that much space, especially in the box where you've noticed if you face him 1v1, he won't beat you. Like, he noticed it earlier in the game. So why he was so attracted to the ball, I will never know. And he allowed him to peel off the back of him, and the rest is history. But what do you think?
Anthony's main move is a cut in and left-footed finish. That's his move. And when you give him that space to come inside and then cut in, you're asking for trouble. And I feel like we collapsed too much to ball. I think Zinchenko, you're completely right about Zinchenko collapsing to the ball, and us trying to just and the defensive shape just collapsing. Obviously, Saliba should be higher up and keep the line straight. Someone needs to manage the line there. I think obviously Gabriel's left, but there needs to be a call from somewhere. I think this goal for me is about miscommunication. I feel like there's not communication in terms of getting someone to block the pass into Bruno. I feel like there's miscommunication in getting the line together, so Rashford's not inside, and there's miscommunication in telling Zinchenko to push when we need him to be a bit more tighter to Anthony, so he doesn't have the space to cut it and shoot. So the entire situation is about miscommunication and not meeting a marker in terms of hitting people late, as well as giving people space. So yeah.
I mean, look, I'm more harsh on Zinchenko here than I am William Saliba, and it's not because I like him. You're dealing with a center forward right now that is peeling off you and having a lot of joy the entire half, by the way. So this idea here, I'm annoyed that he misjudges it. Chris, if you go back to the previous screenshot, he actually tries to play him offside. He just misjudges it. If you actually watch back, a couple seconds before, he makes a position to kind of jump forward, play him offside. He obviously mistimes it. And then when he receives kind of in this position, I feel as though that Zinchenko needs to recognize his blindside run, which is Anthony, right? Like Saliba, you have to at some point trust your partners to cover your 1v1. This is what it comes down to. When you break a defensive line, you're going to have to make a decision because, look, it's 2v1 at one sense, right? You're clearly, you know where the space is. We actually have men back. I think the most frustrating thing here, guys, is it's 3v3 ultimately.
Yeah.
And you have to trust your defenders to win their 1v1 battles here. When it is 3v3 like that, one thing that you don't do as a coach, don't get sucked in, don't step on somebody else's toes, and trust that your teammate gets the job done, because otherwise you're going to be left in the lurch. And I think that's what Zinchenko does. He doesn't trust William Saliba to deal with Rashford at the top of the D, and that's what leaves the space for Anthony, right?
I agree, because I was speaking about it with someone else on the timeline, and I said, well, Zinchenko didn't need to come over, mainly because you have to trust Saliba, but as well as that, Xhaka is less than 5 yards away. He was getting close. Well, he was tracking back. Martinelli was tracking as well. And he left someone who's left-footed to open his body with no pressure and shoot at the target. I also think Ramsdale dived the wrong way. Way. I rarely see keepers dive to the near post.
You know why? You know why, though?
Cover it. You have to cover it.
No, because he's been suspect all season at the near post. And I think this is a little bit of fear. When we talk about bravery, I think that was Ramsdale's fear. You know, he's been beaten at the near post far too well, especially on the Madison goal, for example, already. So I think it was something that for him, he just didn't want to have another near post fiasco. Obviously, it was the wrong choice. But I do think that plays into a keeper's mind. Just really quickly to answer this question, I want to know what you guys think. Like, not everything that a player does is a coaching instruction. I think I saw a little bit higher up, is this a coaching issue? Is this an individual issue? For me, really simply, like when you look at it, what we wanted is pressure on the ball. But one thing that you don't do is you never leave your spot in order to do that job. You need to yell at your players to get in position to do so. And that's what Sambi does wrong here. He believes that he has to be the one to put out that fire, and he's not best placed to do it. And so when you do that, you then leave yourself open to quite a bit. And it was an embarrassing goal to concede for the team. I'm more annoyed at the experience levels in the team. So if Sambi is going to be left out of position like that, I need Zinchenko to step up or order Martinelli to get onto Bruno. That's the first mistake. Fundamentally, cutting out that pass is the first mistake in the move. Once you're outnumbered like that, it's 3v3. And then as I was saying with Chris earlier, you need to do your 1v1 battles there. And I think that it's annoying that the experienced player shuffled over and didn't trust his teammates. Despite experience and whatnot, you need to know that in 3v3 situations, when you're even numbered in a situation, never as a coach you say abandon your marker. Everybody as a coach is going to say, listen, take care of your battle and trust your teammate to do the same. Because as soon as you go over, you leave yourself exposed on either side. you basically leave yourself outnumbered. So don't leave us outnumbered. Keep to your task and close the angle and make sure that you're cutting out the center option. That's the most thing that people say. And I think what's annoying is guys like when Zinchenko crashes ball side, by the way, he's in line to block the Antony shot far post. Like Ramsdale makes a mistake, but defensively, why not guide him far post and let him shoot with his right? You know that Antony is so one-footed that he's not going to be able to do it. So for me, when you get into a position already, you're basically out of line. Antony's free, and this is kind of the consequence of basically Zinchenko.
But he's not even back in the box, which annoys me. After his mistake, he committed so much so that he couldn't even be able to turn around. Like Saliba's the closest to the ball.
It's
And I think,
poor. It's a poor response, and this is why I'm really annoyed. And it comes from an experienced player. And again, what annoys me is I don't see this criticism on the timeline. By the way, if a certain other, this is the one time, Chris, I agree that I think a fullback that was not named Zinchenko would have done better in this situation.
because I was seeing a lot of people. Sorry to cut you off, but I was seeing a lot of people look for anyone else to blame but him. And I feel with certain players in the squad, that's what our fans do. Look for anyone else you can blame but him. This is like there's a catalogue of errors, yes, but like certain errors could have, like all those errors, you should still trust your defenders to like save us. Like Martinelli should trust the back four to save him. After that mistake, the back four was still there intact to save him, which I think the issue was the back four didn't save the Martinelli and Lokonga, who did make the errors earlier, but Zinchenko wasn't there to save the day for the team. After this, there was no big chance in the first half. It was really just us with possession and them defending, just trying to sit out the half. And then we move on to the 52nd minute, which is the worst shot of the season occurred. Arguably, like that or Saka's shot last week. So White makes a throw in and physical battle again. Jesus wins it again. He's through with the ball. So in this position, you can see us going through the box. Jesus with the ball, and then three runners. Martinelli back post. Xhaka and Ødegaard. He decides to pass to Ødegaard, which in this instance is the right pass. You could either try to curve it back post and expect Martinelli, but that's a very hard one. And then Ødegaard takes the shot and it ends up here. And that shot was awful, an awful shot. I'll say some words I can't repeat on YouTube. After the shot anyways, Martinelli makes the cross. Saka with a great touch, turn, and then he takes a shot which goes wide as well with his right foot. And he was very willing to strike with his right foot today. Oh, not today, but Sunday. He was very willing to strike with his right foot. And his confidence is increasing. But what did you make of these two chances? The Saka shot after the Ødegaard shot, and how Jesus essentially manhandled Martinez.
Well, we talked about in the preview about Tyrion Lannister kind of falling out of play here. And, this is what happened pretty much all game. I'm not having this that, Jesus for me had an excellent game, by the way, just in general. And he targeted Martinez quite a bit. And, it was
Varane decided, oh no, I have to save Martinez and just hold myself to Jesus.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think a big thing was that, Jesus was doing excellent to do this. I knew that he would happen. By the way, we said it in the review of Aston Villa when he did it to Tyrone Mings. I said, bookmark, he's going to do it to Martinez. This was that chance. And then when he's breaking free, I think he does brilliantly, by the way, to put his head up. And I agree with you, Chris. I would have been annoyed if he took on the shot in that position. The angle was very tight. It was acute. And I would love the pass back. And then, of course, Martin does what Martin does in these situations, unfortunately, more times than not. And I think he scuffs it. And this is part of the annoyance for me, is because if we had a Fabio Vieira, an Emile Smith-Rowe in that position, that doesn't happen. At least you get a shot on target. I'm okay with it not going in. I'm annoyed, don't get me wrong, but I'm okay with it. You need to get a shot on target in that position. And anything less than that is atrocious, right? So it's just really poor. And I think Saka, by the way, had an excellent game. Again, today, he really deserved it. And, he's such a big game performer, by the way. I think Liverpool's the only,
last season is the only one he didn't get goal and assist against.
Yeah. And so for me, he was just immense. And, he makes do with a really hopeful cross, right? Let's call it what it is. When Martinelli kind of recovers, it's a hopeful cross, and Saka does well to make a situation out of it. I think, look, is the shot the best? Not really, but I think he makes the right decision. In that position, you shoot with your right foot across goal. You don't go near post. I like that. In other instances, he's gone near post, and I'm like, why are you going for the goal in that sense? But again, for me, I don't think you can get much clearer, and we need to finish our dinner here, guys. Like, again, this is part of the frustration that I've got is when you've got players in that specific situation, we need to finish them. You need to be aggressive. You need to set, and you need to get it on target. I don't know if there's an excuse that you can have for it. And just like I had the same energy for Bukayo Saka, who missed a horrible open net, I think this is less, but ultimately you need somebody that's going to be a killer in these away days and in those moments, and at least get it on target.
What did you make of that 30-second period, Karen, before we move on to the goal?
I just think that I feel like Saka was very, very good in terms of turning his man and getting the shot off. I think it was one of the best chances we had, and I think we just didn't take our chances at times this game. I think the goal it gave us a great amount of momentum in terms of possession and getting the goal, basically chasing the game and trying to get another goal. But I feel like this is an example of there's no one running onto that rebound, there's no one running onto that cross. There needs to be someone there just to tap it in, and that's whatever the score was. I can't even remember that. My brain is fried.
It would have been 2-1, and that's
it would have been 2-1, yeah.
And sorry, Kern, to cut you off. Like, this is a little mini rant, but these are the issues that you have when you're trying to turn a game around. Like I said it in group chats, this is when the game was decided for me, by the way, guys. Like, look, you're annoyed with the subs, and we'll get into it in terms of the goal, by the way. But this game was lost for me in that moment. When it's 1-1, you've got the mick between you. Okay, you're pressing for another one. If we score in that moment, which it deserved, that goal, that passage of play deserved a goal. You do that, for me, the game is done. We've seen them capitulate in that situation, and it's just very, very frustrating to me that we don't at least get it on target. Like, I don't know. I can understand making a mistake, but I don't understand why you don't get it on target in that situation.
I agree, and I think we should just move on to the goal, really. It was quick. So this is 60 minutes in. As you can see, we had more attempts, but they had more on target. 60 minutes in, Xhaka plays a one-time pass to Odegaard, who lets the ball run across his body, plays the first-time pass to Jesus. Varane makes a good last-ditch tackle, forced to Saka, who puts it in the back of the net. I think this was a good goal, and similar to the first one, it wasn't against the run of play, but we weren't like passing through them or anything. The ball dropped, pass, goal. What did you make of the goal, and how did you think this would change the game?
Odegaard Central, puts a nice ball in, we get a shot off. You play him, when he starts drifting wide and sort of being a passive, trying to be too involved in build up, just not getting me aggressive enough, not getting into correct areas. Either be in dangerous areas in the half spaces, i.e. where we pointed out earlier in the stream, or be central so you can play those nice little through balls like he did to Jesus here. I need to see him more aggressive and getting himself into positions like he was here. This is perfect from Martin. This is what we need from Martin. And he gets a shot off, the rebound comes, and this is what I've been saying. Can you replicate chances? Can you create high XG chances that you can replicate on a consistent basis? And when you have people in the box, they're able to catch on to rebounds or spilled saves. This is very much something that can be replicated, and that's why it's a great goal. I think it's brilliant. We get the goal, we get back in the game, and we have a chance to move on and get into the nitty gritty and try and maybe force something. And at this point, I'm thinking is the run of them never losing a game at Old Trafford, can it be beat? And it was not to be. But great goal nevertheless. And yeah, that's all I got to say.
I'll be really quick. It's nothing that Saka didn't deserve. He had Malaysia on toast all game. It was a clear mismatch. And I just think that he did excellently to keep his back post run. And it's a good shot, by the way. Bukayo, for somebody that, is often not clinical in those positions, it's a clinical finish. So, it's really good play for me. And ultimately it's us following up our chances. I think the chance in general is something that's a little bit us forcing the issue. It's just us being smart. Ironically, Bukayo was clinical in this instance, and I just don't think if we had that a little bit more in other areas, we probably win this game. But this is the one time that we were clinical, and it deserved a goal, and it got a goal.
Well, yeah, I'm going to move on to their goal, not a goal, but their goal. So just touch on our mistake again. The Congo build up. So here's the Congo and build up. He plays here past
fair
two.
to him, Chris, before you go to the next one, where is our option between the lines? To be fair to him, like
I don't blame him.
yeah, like I mean, and I'll let you narrate. But again, I saw a lot of people saying, when he takes this, he does a risky pass with his weak foot. But for us, this is not good enough. Like, look at the presence in between the lines. We need to have somebody there. And I think Gabriel Jesus, to be fair, we had just reworked a goal, and I think he's working his way over. But this is a time for me that whether it's Martin, whether it's Saka, one of those two needs to step up into that space to attack it. It's far too open, and this is a case where Manchester United are beat here. You make a pass into this area, they're scrambling. So
just have somewhere where the ref is.
Yes, yeah, the refs. Paul Tierney's in
the refs have space
to receive between the lines. That is basically kind of a carbon copy of what Odegaard had as the
when he passes, Zinchenko plays, which I think was a stupid attempt at a flick. He flicked it back. Ronaldo almost steals the ball. He does get a touch on the ball, which flicks it out wide. Sambi plays the pass there with his left foot. Ronaldo following him, goes straight to Dalot, who from here is one-touch football, one touch to Eriksen. Who passes first time to Bruno, and Bruno receives here and lets the ball run across his body. I thought what Bruno did here was elite and can't be replicated by many players. Like the technique to use the outside of your boot to curve it around Saliba is elite, and maybe 5 players in football right now could make the pass, like on the run and under pressure. He does make the pass outside of his boot, curved. Here, when you saw this, like what were you thinking? Do you think Saliba did anything wrong? Because
No.
I think. Well, firstly, I thought he should have just kept running. I think his positioning to try to turn around just killed him out of the game, and it essentially became a race between White and Rashford, which obviously Rashford won. But do you think Saliba did anything wrong?
No, it's just an outrageous pass. Well, I if you can go earlier, Chris, I'll tell you who did wrong, and people are going to call it agenda, but it's Martin. So if you keep going a little bit earlier, the ball should have never got into Bruno. And if you actually go back to when Dalot receives the ball, again, it's Martin is late here and he's walking, and I don't like this. Like it's not like him, to be fair. He does do this in other games, not away from home, I must say, but here at this moment in time, he has to be busting a gut. And even before that, he has to understand that that's his responsibility, by the way. That's his job. Now, we could probably worry about, I think that's Rashford there that's just starting his run in the bottom right-hand corner there. That's a worry. But first, you need to block the center pass. We need to make sure, why isn't he over there making sure to crowd us out? Because, by the way, we have numbers. We're missing somebody in that spot, and that, for me, is the error. Once you've got, essentially, Eriksen getting on the ball in this position, it's kind of game over, right? And I think beyond that, Eriksen did well pretty much all game to function as that secondary progressor because they didn't have anybody in the back to really do it for them well beyond Martinez. And so Eriksen really filled in that void. But, you need to have Martin Odegaard sharp to that ball. He isn't, and that's where the ball kind of is messed up. I think where Bruno is at that moment in time, Chris, it's a, to use Yo-Yo's words, sure, it's a filthy pass. Like it's immense. Sometimes it's not a break in structure. It's not an individual error. This is the one time that for me, I throw my hands up and I say, that is world class. That is world class play. And look, Rashford does well to finish, by the way. That's not an easy finish. There's still a lot
of White did well to recover, to be fair to him, because
very well.
He got a touch on the ball. And if he doesn't get a touch, he might have gone wide. So White did well there, and Rashford and Ramsdale couldn't have done anything. Because people would have said he could have done what Alisson did. But Alisson was in the same situation and Rashford scored. So you just think it was an elite pass and nothing else we could have done.
Well, the issue was higher up. I do think so. I think Martin Odegaard is poor to his marker. I think Martin Odegaard needs to be more aggressive to making sure that he's in front of Eriksen, or at least central, especially when the ball is opposite side like that. There's no reason for him to be so wide right. That's the error. In terms of after that, once the ball gets into Bruno on the half turn, that's you. We have numbers, Chris. Like he is sandwich. Like Rashford is
Yeah,
trash. You know, we have
yes.
numbers, and even by the way, Bruno, he doesn't do that under no pressure. We do pressure him. Do I think the pressure?
That was just elite. Like as I said,
Yeah,
maybe five. It could be less. Maybe 5 men in the world of football could play that pass under pressure, perfect for Rashford to receive, one touch bang. Like it was a
and the
great,
pace. By the way, the pace to slow up just before the goal,
yeah,
it was immense.
it was perfection. So I think that's really, we got killed by an elite pass essentially. And when you give that much space in transition, and you have so many men up the pitch that aren't organised, so there's not enough men back to deal with that. But I think I'm going to move on to the 68th minute, the 68th minute where we almost gifted them a goal. So Saliba has the ball here, and this is the 68th minute start. So we had 78% possession second half, leading up to this point, and 54. Like we even won the possession after being dominated 85-15 in the first 12 minutes or so. Saliba makes the pass here. Ramsdale receives. Well, this is about to receive, but Ramsdale receives, and Ronaldo does. It's just great pressing. He plays the pass out, and Fred intercepts. Fred intercepts his pass here, and Bruno receives the ball on the half turn. He just lets the ball run across his body again. Bruno takes the shot, and Ramsdale makes a great save. After this, it falls out wide, pass back in, and Gabriel makes a tackle. But I thought that was unnecessary to show. But force on this, and essentially after this, we just started to self-destruct. What did you make of this 68th minute Bruno chance?
Panic. I think that's the best way to describe it. Just panic. I think we were trying to force passes, trying to get the tempo up and get the ball into the final third. And I think we were a bit too loose, and they bounced on it, and they almost got it. They almost got a third here. I think Ramsdale spreads himself very well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what you could say. I think we were trying to force it too much. We were mistaking aggression with tempo, and I think you have to be aggressive, but you don't have to necessarily up the tempo. You have to be controlled and not force your passes. And we tried to force passes here, and we got caught.
What did you think, George?
I think just fundamentally, it's lazy. It's poor. We've done that, but I mean, at the same token, when you play this type of football, you demand your players to do that, and that can happen. I think Ramsdale digs us out with a really good save, and I think from that point in time, you have to kind of do what we did against Leicester, where we didn't let that kind of mistake hinder us. Right? We pressed on from that moment in time, and I think we didn't do that in this game. For me, I'm less annoyed at the error. I think it happens. I think it's poor, but we dig ourselves out, and after that point in time, you do as a team have to respond. But you did mention, Chris, it kind of flipped into a catalog of errors, and we basically did that sub. And maybe the biggest question mark is not so much the goal that happens after, but whether or not the subs changed that. Because I saw a lot on the timeline where the subs basically were a result of the goal. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that the subs, regardless, we concede.
They were being made before.
Yeah. Like
you could see that from the 60th minute. Emil and Ketia and what's his name, Vieira already stood up. They're already getting changed.
Yeah, for me, we already had spaces in the middle of the park that wasn't happening. So I think, and we already had seen that we had lacked central presence. By the way, like I'm just going to go back to really the first area of that goal where we're looking at kind of Lukonga receiving and Lukonga in the build up really. When you look at something like that, that's not good to see. And I guarantee you, seeing that at that moment in time, already had Mikel thinking, I need to make subs. And when you look at it again, this is only like several minutes beyond that point. That was in the 64th or 65th, right? So
68th.
Yeah. So for me, that's only like 3 minutes beyond us seeing that hole in the middle of the park, and I think that's what Mikel wanted to see.
Well, lastly, I want to go for the goal because after the goal, we just had pop shots from the edge of the box that went over the bar and wide. So this one, so they have the ball here. Ronaldo has the ball here. He passes out wide to Bruno, and Bruno, it was really like one pass to Bruno, and Saliba there tries to play them offside, but White doesn't do the same thing, and it's a great pass 2v1 into the box, assist goal. What do you make of this goal? Because I felt after this guy, I felt like turning off the game, but I knew we were going to make subs, so I didn't. But what did you feel about this goal?
This one, I think William Saliba is wrong to do. I think it's tight, especially when you do step up. He's doing it at the halfway line. Like, that's incredibly tight to play off. I think ultimately he needs to do better to kind of keep his run. And you've got Granit Xhaka there, and I think he makes that. That's, I think, is a youthful mistake, and I think that William Saliba crashes because he doesn't trust, in my opinion, us to stop that ball into Ronaldo. But when he's there, he needs to continue his run. I don't think he should have stopped to play him offside. That was the wrong decision in my opinion. And I think it's too tight. Even if you did want to do it, you're basically leaving a margin of error of what, 2 yards, Chris? Like that's your margin of error for
like the 2 yards is like generous. Like
very
that's tight. Like looking at this angle is very tight between him and Eriksen when the ball's played.
Yeah, like I think that's a wrong decision, and I think he'll learn from it. I don't think that he should do that. I think he should be a lot more central. But even if he isn't there, like for me, make your recovery. Don't try to play off an offside with less than 2 yards of space.
I was annoyed that we put Ben White in like a 20-minute period in like 5 races
Yeah,
with Rashford. Like he's going to lose them every single 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10. He's going to lose the race. He may be able to recover when Rashford receives the ball, but after the ball was through, no one in our squad pretty much is, apart from maybe Martinelli, that helps us in that situation. So after that pass, when he plays on side, knowing that they're going to get the chance to score anyways because it's so tight that they're going to let it play on. It's a poor decision from Saliba, and then White couldn't do anything at all. I was annoyed. I was annoyed personally that Eriksen didn't shoot because he lost me money. That's why I cared about at this point. I need Eriksen to shoot because I knew.
I remember the group chat.
But yeah, we lost. That's pretty much it, guys.
Yeah, we lost.
Because after this, it's just Vieira pretty much. He was the.
Well, no. Can
we have a 2-minute discussion with Vieira?
I'm setting you guys up. Like,
I love him.
I actually saw Patrick Vieira today. Anyways, Fabio Vieira.
You can't just drop what?
Yeah,
man, just drop a Patrick Vieira sighting and just was like, anyways.
I was good. Anyways, I'll tell you guys about that after. Anyways, so Fabio Vieira, he comes on the pitch. A lot of people liked what they saw. After him and Emil came on, they were the only 2 people on our team who really had shots. And Nketiah had the arguable penalty, but I think he was very different. I was saying, people were angry at me, like messaging me, like, you can't say this, you can't. I was saying, like, wow, seeing our Arsenal reps and him take a touch and pass, like, it's so rare to see.
But you know what, Chris?
I thought he was great, and I felt Mikel has dug himself a hole. That's something we've said all season by making Odegaard captain. He's made it very hard to switch him. But what did you make of Vieira's cameo for 20-30 minutes?
Look, it was what I've been saying for how long. It's why I've wanted him at the club for so long. And, I've even wanted him over Martin Odegaard for a reason. But look, I think you can't eulogize, and you have to be fair, because I don't think 15 minutes describes a player. But one thing that you will see with this boy is he is vertical. He will take shots and he will press the issue. I don't think we've seen a pass like that since Cesc, by the way. And it wasn't even his only pass, by the way. That one chance to Martinelli that he takes out 3 lines of defense. It's incredible. Doing that,
great recovery tackle from Varane, to be fair.
It's phenomenal. But mate, you know what I love is Martinelli making that run before Fabio Vieira even sets himself. Like he knows that he's got somebody that will hit him. And I think a lot of people are saying, well, Martin has made that pass. No, he hasn't, and he hasn't done it with that intent. Like
it was one touch release.
Yeah, it was. If anything, Fabio Vieira is the antithesis of Martin, where he forces things too much. Not only are you going to see that far too often, it might even be to the detriment, but I rather that in away games. I rather that in games where we need to force the issue, because not only that, but you guys remember that volley shot that he had too? He was pissed at himself for not getting an extremely hard volley off, but he will help us immensely. I think in this short cameo, you basically saw some of the best glimpses of what Fabio Vieira has to offer. And it's not just his verticality, it's not just his ability, technically between the lines, but it's also, for me, a big thing is his kind of his dominance, his aggression. I'll say that's what I'll say. In a performance that lacked bravery at times, this is somebody that was brave and somebody that didn't care where you are. He will kill you. So yeah, I really liked what I saw.
What did you make of the cameo, Corin?
It was fabulous. It was really good. I thought
Oh,
he did so well.
Yeah.
Come on, I've been waiting for that all day.
No,
Let me
no,
have it. Let me have it.
no, no,
Anyway, he was so good. I really
You
enjoyed
deserve to be censored for all of time. That's what you deserve.
He was really good. The pass, the arc on it, the sign. I mean, people saying the E was the same as the West Ham away pass. That was what the comment was. That was from, and I just don't think. I don't think it was. I think it was something that it was so good because of the, as George mentioned, the intent. It was so good because he's aggressive, and in away games you can't shy away. You have to be on it. You have to have that intent. You have to want to take the opposition, because especially at Old Trafford, you're playing against 12 men, and it's that simple. You're not playing against not even 12, 13 men, include the crowd in it. So you're playing against call it 14, inevitability.
Oh my God.
So you're playing against a whole lot, and I agree, mate. I think he's a left 8 personally.
I think we've spoken about that enough, and I think Sambi, we've all said when he grows up, he could develop defensively. We don't know, but as of right now, he's better as an 8. But we'll see more of Vieira on Thursday.
Another fabulous performance.
I'm guessing was.
Yeah, we're hoping so. And ultimately, when you look at this game, I'm just gonna quickly end on my thing. I think that this game is a case of us not taking our chances. I think the press was awful, and I think our midfield was porous, really spacious. I think it was. If I'm worried about the next game, no. I think when you looked at Mikel's presser, if he said that he thought it would really hurt the confidence, he was very curt. He goes, "No, it will not." And I just think this was really an outlier performance for me. It's a tough loss, and I think what's most annoying, it's a story that we've come to know well at Old Trafford, right? It's something where we played well in patches, but ultimately we didn't do our game.
Probably the best performance we've had, though.
It is. And I think that's partly what the annoying part is, Chris, because you look at this and you see, okay, like it's better, but why can't we be good? And it's, I think that's the frustrating bit. But again, we lacked conviction in the final third after Nelly's disallowed goal. I think the midfield structure was pretty porous, too much space on the counter. That came from us arriving late in terms of our cover shadows and, Martin Odegaard, as well as Sambi, who didn't do well to close the space. But again, we need to get back to our effective press. We dust ourselves off and we go again, because I think that it's more of an outlier as opposed to something that we need to be worried about long term.
And Karen, final thoughts?
Just, I tweeted it. I don't know if it was yesterday, the day before. That this is a game that you need to look back and see the performance instead of the result. The result was obviously terrible. It's awful to lose there, but we didn't give up. We didn't kind of retreat into our shell. There was no 8-2 hammering. There was no sort of, just everyone just looking down on the floor. I just think we lacked authority in the final third, and that is still something we need to work on as a team. I think a lot of people are looking at wing options. I still think we need another striker, even though if Nketiah is really good. I prefer Jesus on the wing. But yeah, there's the main thing from this game is good performance, shitty result. Let's go get 3 points in Zurich.
And yeah, for me, I just think we both teams made mistakes, and United just capitalized on ours, and we didn't on theirs. Simply put, they scored. Rashford took 2 chances, and we didn't take our chances. When you're away and the going gets tough and everything's against you,
they're second bottom in their league, guys. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. But yeah,
apart from one. So yeah, we'll be speaking about Zurich tomorrow, and then Friday, and then on Saturday we'll be back as well. You'll see a lot of us this week, sadly. So yeah, we'll be back tomorrow, and no, I won't let George do the thing. I'll do it. Thank you for watching. You can follow everyone on Twitter for George at GeorgeV_AFC. You missed George today. Curran, you can find him at Curran BoP. Me, you can find me at CK Football, CKFTBL, and you can find all of us at BOP Footy. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back tomorrow previewing the Zurich game. Peace.